Welcome, everyone. Portland, Oregon lies within the traditional homelands of the Multnomah, Oregon City Tumwater, Watlala, and Clackamas Chinooks, and the Tualatin Kalapuya peoples, who were relocated to the Grand Ronde Reservation under the Kalapuya etc. 1855 ratified treaty, also known as the Willamette Valley Treaty. Today, these tribes are part of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. The Grand Ronde people continue to maintain a connection to their ancestral homelands and maintain their traditional cultural practices. Thank you all for being here tonight. I am beyond honored to introduce our visiting artist, Laura Camila Medina. Laura is just, such a special human artist, a person who I've known for almost a decade now, and I've seen just really blossom and build community and just be such a force for beauty in the world. And so I am just beyond honored to introduce you this evening. Laura is an interdisciplinary artist born in Bogota, Colombia. Her practice is deeply inspired by the kisses between the mountains and the sky of her birthplace, intertwined with the thematic fantasy-scape and migrant microcosms of Central Florida. Her work has been exhibited at the Luminary, the Sculpture Center, Yossi Milo, David Castillo Gallery, Spurs, Arts Fort Worth, Fuller Rosen Gallery, the Portland Art Museum, and National. She was recently awarded the Spaces Satellite Fund, the H. Lee Hirsch Memorial Prize, Dean's Travel Grant, and a CCAM Fellowship at Yale University. Individual Artist Fellowship from the Oregon Arts Commission, the New Media Fellowship at Open Signal, and various artist residencies, including Signal Fire, Acre, and Centrum. She is represented by National in Portland, Oregon. Medina earned her BFA at Pacific Northwest College of Art and her MFA in painting and printmaking from Yale University. She is currently based in Cleveland, Ohio, where she is the ACAD Postgraduate Fellow at the Cleveland Institute of Art. I'm gonna do this. I'm also very excited to share that Laura has an exhibition, Ceremony for the Winged, in which she has transformed the project space at National, into a whimsical cave of wonders. The opening reception is tomorrow, Saturday, October 11th, from noon to 3 p.m. And the work will be on view at National through November 23rd. And now please help me welcome Laura Camila Medina.
Can you hear me? Okay. Wow, I've never been introduced like that before. But good evening, everyone. As Megan said, I'm Laura Camila Medina. It feels very special to be here tonight, though from a different viewpoint than what my body remembers, so I'm a little bit disoriented by that. I was usually an audience member at these events when I was a student years ago. I saw wonderful artists speak here, among them Alison Sarr and Wangechi Mutu, who I so deeply admire. And I share this space with people that I love, my friends, my mentors, my professors. So thank you, Megan, for inviting me to speak to this new wave of artists and for allowing me to reunite with so many people that I love and miss dearly. I also want to be vulnerable with you and share that I'm a very sensitive person. There might be a long pause here and there to breathe and recollect myself, and maybe I'll even shed a tear or two. And in those pauses, I invite you to breathe with me since we are sharing the space. So before we begin, I want us to imagine collectively. We're about to embark on a ride in this flying machine titled Everything Becomes Small from Up Here. Notice its material lightness. It'll allow us to take flight through time and space, though not linear and permeating through all human-made borders. So let's close our eyes and imagine. So let's go inside and remember to keep your hands and feet in the flying machine at all times. And to give you a sense of the trip, this is part of our map, though it won't be the entire thing. It's a piece titled "In the Mountains Blue and Green, I'll Always Dream of Home." We'll begin our journey in a place of high elevation, though we are deep in the water. Let's look at this wonderful object. Tunjos are cast gold offerings that often depict figures holding something. That something is sometimes a miniature body, perhaps a child, a tool, or a recipient. I'm fascinated by the fractal quality of the handheld object holding something too. I have also been known for holding on. The Muisca, Sinu, and Tairona, many of the civilizations of the land we now call Colombia, are proficient craftspeople working with gold and other metals since before 1200 BCE, the most ancient among the Americas in Colombia and Ecuador. The work we see here is a raft that symbolizes the submersion of a sipa, a leader of the Muiscas, along many precious artifacts, all in miniature. Though the stories morph and change with time, especially as the Spanish try to justify the violent colonization, extraction, destruction of the land, the legend of El Dorado had been constructed in that raft. Though the Spanish hoped to find a city of gold deep under lagoon waters, they instead found miniature representations that were often dismissed and infantilized, then melted into ingots for their kings. These stories are also reinforced to create a sense of pride and national identity in Colombia, one that often talks about a distant past of these sophisticated gold objects while ignoring the present-day conditions of over 100 indigenous tribes. This is blatantly seen in the accompanying text and immersive experience of the Museo de Oro in Bogotá, while many indigenous artisans, often displaced from their lands, sell their crafts on the plaza right outside of the museum. The Laguna Guatavita in the Altiplano Cundiboyacense was a sacred site for the Muisca, and through word of mouth became one of the lakes rumored to have an underwater city of gold. You may be familiar with the movie The Legend of El Dorado, which is a very popular animation. It was quite popular when I was a child, and I believe it's set in Mexico, though the legend is actually in Colombia. And though you can't see it that well here, along that top right side, a deep wound was cut on its side to drain these sacred waters and search for the treasure. Though no city was ever found, the gold was nonetheless stolen. You may now see these treasures displayed in museums worldwide. There's a couple of Sinu pieces, including a gorgeous double spiral septum pendant at the Portland Art Museum, which I begrudgingly visited many times. My maternal grandmother, Carmen Cecilia, though I've always called her Gija, was born near Guatavita in a place called Huasca. Here I photographed her in Monserrate, the highest point in the mountain range surrounding Bogotá, with a mazorca in hand. I love this photo of her. I spent most of my time as a child with my grandparents, filled with memories of Gija's hands, because every meal that was held by her at one point is home. I have so many memories of going through my siblings' drawers when they weren't home, and the little closet room with all the books. Mind you, all the books really meant like 10 books and an encyclopedia for kids. But within the smallest books, I discovered the vastness of a world contained on a single page. This one specifically, in a book titled Arrume de Rimas, captivated me like no other. Deep in my imagination, I have lived within those heart windows, watching a dying dove fly by. One of the accompanying poem lines reads, que tu falda era tu blusa, que tu corazón su casa, se equivocaba. So the dove was mistaken over and over. She kept mistaking the blouse or the skirt for the blouse, the stars for mist, and lastly, your heart for her home. And I did too. Some of the most impactful memories were the countless unsupervised hours spent in front of the TV in my brother's room. For some time, I believed that there was a miniature world inside of the TV. All those little people and places moving lived in a small but infinite space. Something inside of my body awakens whenever I hear the soft sizzle of a CRT TV powering on. The animated film Anastasia plays on TV and drowns out the war in the next room. I am alone, but somehow less so when Sakura Card Captor searches for something, someone she also longs for. Thanks to RCN and Caracol, I am aware of kidnappings, beauty pageant queens, car bombs, and U.S. military training for Colombian soldiers. This is Caras Vemos, Corazones No Sabemos from 2021.
Emisión el 13 de junio de 1954. El nuevo servicio público que es la televisión en Colombia depende directamente de la Oficina de Información y Propaganda de la Presidencia de la República. Los equipos de transmisión vienen de Alemania, las cámaras de Estados Unidos. Tras una carrera contra el tiempo, la fecha de inauguración coincidía con el primer aniversario del golpe de Estado. La televisora nacional saldría al aire por primera vez para 400 receptores con un osado control remoto desde el Palacio de San Carlos. La alocución presidencial. El estupor no tiene límites. Comprarse un televisor es como llevarse a casa el Teatro Colón, sin el esplendor o la incomodidad de sus palcos decimonónicos. El Estado programa cultura o entretenimiento. Presente estará la Orquesta Sinfónica bajo la dirección del maestro Olaf Ross, en el más brillante momento de su historia.
Though I spent less time with my paternal grandparents, I will say a few things about my experience of their house. Really the only landmark that has been consistent for the most part in my life. My grandmother Mariela was a stern and cold woman. She made a perfect jugo de curua. She was a seamstress by trade and a collector of all things old and small. Similarly to the book Deep in My Imaginary, I have been inside of this bunny house many times. She saw any surface as a possible stage, the top of the TV, any and all shelves, tables, the buffet, to arrange figurines of Criollo descent, replicas of French Rococo ballerinas, lots of Snoopies, and even some anime figures left behind by one of the grandchildren, and of course the family archive of photographs displayed around the house. I believe that my instinct to collage stems from her. In 2023, I traveled back to Colombia after 6 years of being away with the hope to document her collection through 3D scans and proper photographs, but was met with the heartbreaking news that after her death in 2017, my uncle had thrown everything out. I made this in hopes of reanimating what had been lost. This is Las almas que nos quieren están todas muy lejos. The fascination with the handheld, it happened through you. A heart opens up to reveal a world, like the bunny house for Paula's baptism, like the little windows that housed my grandfather's doves. Now crumbling and covered in dust, no one took care of my childhood memories. The banality of a woman's collection sits decomposing somewhere distant. Las almas que nos quieren están todas muy lejos. wonder who your first love was. For whom was the passion that ran through your veins, scribbled in gridded pages? I sit with your handwriting and find ways to tether me to you, any likeness that connects me and tells me that I belong. Las almas que nos quieren están todas muy lejos. The heart's veins, or maybe branches, the fractals of our family that include my name, means that someone remembers me even though I'm so far away. Las almas que nos quieren están todas muy lejos. Just a sentence written in an unassuming daily planner rings in my ears as the most sincere truth and living proof that if I reach out into collapsed time, I can still feel you. Okay, don't judge me. I have to do something crazy. The fascination with the handheld, it happened through you. A heart opens up to... Okay, as we go on through these slides, the volume of my videos might be a little crazy. I was trying to turn it down just in case the next one is wild, but we're just gonna go with it because I couldn't do it. But right now, we're in one of my favorite places, nestled in a kiss between the mountains and the soft billowing sky. And according to our map, we are here. And at this point, too, there's a hole in my family's web, a shape that is cut out and transplanted somewhere far. The previous composition remains, however, leaving behind a void, a wound, my siblings and the rest of my family. When we look down, we can see those mountains, blue and green, along with everything we left behind becoming smaller, being swallowed by the landscape. What I will read now is an adaptation of scale theory of distance where trees and forests have been replaced. So let us start with a common observation. In front of me is my family. If I move from my family gets smaller. If I were to keep moving away from my family, while still keeping it in view, going into the sky, perhaps I would find that my family loses more and more detail until it merges with another object. My family becomes part of a new entity called homeland. The basic experience is that in the view of my family, one does not discern this larger object, homeland. This truism points to how this observation is not in any way new, yet if considered in its simplicity, it can unfold into a series of more significant observations about observation that generates the need for scale. I often dream of flying. Sometimes I'm pirouetting so fast that I begin to levitate like a sky dancer. Do you guys remember sky dancers? Yeah. But the truth is that when my mom was pregnant with me, she mysteriously fell out of a window. And perhaps that's where it all began. This is Busco todos los caminos que me conduzcan de nuevo a ti, made this summer. There's a hidden world inside of the mountains that can seen through birdsong. There's a ceremony for the wing that can only be heard through eyes closed. The sound of her wings, the sound of her wings. I took my first flight before I was born, lungs full of midnight sky, memory 001. We are now in the sky, and we must remember that we are not alone, for there are many here with us, and we cross this imaginary bridge that will forever tether us to what we've left behind. Okay, this is the one I'm scared about, so hold on one second. If only there was a way.
Una pierna que respiran veneno de serpiente por el camino del viento. Voy soplando aguardiente.
El día había comenzado entusiasmado y alegre.
Dice, pasaporte.
¿A dónde va por ahí, familiario? Con esta noche tan fea. ¿Usted no se anima? Mire cómo está el camino. Anegadito.
No, hombre, compa. El camino es lo de menos.
Lo importante es llegar. Tengo tu antídoto. Que no tiene identidad. Somos idénticos. Aquellos sin avisar. Tengo tranquilito. Para los que ya no están. Para los que están. Y los que vienen. Tengo tu antídoto. Que no tiene identidad. Somos idénticos. Aquellos sin avisar. Tengo tranquilito. Para los que ya no están. Para los que están. Y los que vienen.
Un nómada sin rumbo, la energía negativa yo la derrumbo con mis pezuñas de cordero. Me propuse a recorrer el continente entero, sin brújula, sin tiempo, sin agenda, inspirado por las leyendas, por historias empaquetadas en lata, por los cuentos que la luna relata. Aprendí a caminar sin mapa, a irme de caminata, sin comodidades, sin lujo, protegido por los santos y los brujos. Aprendí a escribir cabronerías en mi libreta y con un mismo idioma sacudir todo el planeta. Aprendí que mi pueblo todavía reza porque las fucking autoridades y la puta realeza todavía se mueven por debajo de la mesa. Aprendí a tragarme la depresión con cerveza. Mi patrono yo lo escupo desde las montañas y con mi propia saliva enveneno su champaña. Enveneno su champaña.
Tengo tu antídoto. Que no tiene identidad. Somos idénticos. Aquellos sin avisar. Tengo tranquilito. Para los que ya no están. Para los que están. Y los que vienen. Tengo tu antídoto. Que no tiene identidad. Somos idénticos. Aquellos sin avisar. Tengo tranquilito. Para los que ya no están. Para los que están. Y los que
No.
Una vez por el
Hold on one second. So now that we're in the sky, we can find the wound. The wound of birth, the wound on my arm, the painted wound, and here the portal, Muchacha Ojos de Papel from 2022. There's a moment in the in-between where belonging becomes necessary, where the unknown is so isolating that we begin to look inward to find home. That's how I discovered memory palaces, and we start to transition into the infinitely scalable, the vastness of inside. Each room wallpapered with a corresponding pattern, like the bed sheets of the bed I shared with my mom. The letter I wrote to my dad when he left for the US is on the floor I sit on. My little drawings and the heartbreaking wish for papers, alternating my child self understanding of separation forever. And what would happen if I let people in? If the memory palace becomes public, navigable, is there a chance that in the patterns, the worlds, each song carefully selected, the animations, all which are so deeply mine, is there a chance for connection?
De la historia negra, de la historia nuestra, caballero, y dice así. En los años 1600
conocí mujer igual a la flaca, coral negro de La Habana, tremendísima mulata, 100 libras de piel y hueso, 40 kilos de salsa y en la cara 2 soles que sin palabras hablan, que sin palabras hablan. La placa duerme de día, dice que así el hambre engaña, y cuando cae la noche baja a bailar a la tasca y bailar y bailar.
Para alumbrarme hacia tu risa, olas que esfuman de mis ojos, a una legión de tus recuerdos me roban formas de tu rostro, dejando arena en el silencio. Te busco perdida entre sueños, el ruido de la gente te envuelven en un velo. Te busco volando en el cielo, el viento te ha llevado como un pañuelo viejo y no hago.
Empacó un par de camisas, un sombrero, su vocación de aventurero, 6 consejos, 7 fotos, 1000 recuerdos. Empacó sus ganas de quedarse, su condición de transformarse en el hombre que soñó y no ha logrado. Dijo adiós con una mueca disfrazada de sonrisa y le suplicó a su Dios crucificado en la repisa el resguardo de los suyos. Y perforó la frontera como pudo. Si la luna suave se desliza por cualquier cornisa sin permiso alguno, porque el mojado precisa comprobar con visas que no es de Neptuno. El mojado tiene ganas de secarse, el mojado está mojado por las lágrimas que bota la nostalgia. El mojado, el indocumentado, carga el bulto que legal no cargaría ni obligado.
El suplicio de un papel lo ha convertido en fugitivo.
Y no es de aquí porque su nombre no aparece en los archivos, ni es de allá porque se fue.
It was that one. That's the one that made me shed a little tear just now. So breathe with me if you need to. But on the topic of the infinitely scalable, I would like to give a quick shout out to Megan McKissick, who is upstairs doing a workshop right now, and Matthew Henderson, who here at PNCA and at Open Signal respectively helped me create entire worlds out of the handheld and the hand-painted. It's hard to believe, but a cow-stuffed animal holds my entire childhood in her little body. So I remake her with paper mache. Every strip of paper is a memory. It's the bed I shared with my mother. It's the tiny church barely visible at the top of the mountain. It's the dove, yes, that one. And I kiss her little forehead knowing that love as activation will allow me to teleport. It'll allow me to teleport when I am so sick with longing that I cannot see a future. Oh, why is that so hard to read? 1 second. My best friend Angela once asked me what would happen if I went outside of the memory palace. And this memory landscape, Recordar es Construir from 2020 was my response.
necesito una razón y es difícil creer que no exista una más que este amor. Sometimes I run, sometimes I hide, sometimes I'm scared of you, but all I really want is to hold you tight, treat you right, be with you day and night. Baby, all I need is time.
Yo quiero ser pacificado por el aguardiente de tu amor profundo. Qué bueno es ser fotografiado, más por las retinas de tus ojos lindos, borrando la palabra pena en el diccionario de la vida mía.
Ese beso de tu boca que me sabe a fruta fresca, que se escapó de tus labios y se me echó en mi cabeza. Es el beso con que sueño cuando las penas me acechan, que me lleva al mismo cielo y a la tierra me regresa.
Me gusta volver, me gustas tú, me gusta marihuana, me gustas tú, me gusta colombiana, me gustas tú, me gusta la montaña, me gustas tú, me gusta la noche. ¿Qué voy a hacer? Je ne sais pas. ¿Qué voy a hacer? Je ne sais plus. ¿Qué voy a hacer? Je suis perdu.
$7.
Colombia, tierra querida, himno de fe y armonía. Cantemos, cantemos todos, grito de paz y alegría. Vivemos, siempre vivemos a nuestra patria querida. Su suelo es una oración y es un canto de la vida. Su suelo es una oración y es un canto de la vida.
Esta es Caracol, primera cadena radial colombiana. Caracol, más compañía.
So in that moment of teleportation, we have landed in a hot and humid place, a strange place, a place of fantasy, of simulation, perhaps a place where dreams come true. In one of those prophetic moments we reflect on later, I was gifted a Minnie Mouse suitcase the day I was born. And at 8 years old, with the suitcase in hand, I crossed that imaginary bridge I talked about earlier between the land of the blue-green mountains and the happiest place on earth. Images of Disney have always permeated my life, as with most of you, I'm sure. Even when I lived in Colombia, my favorite, though, are the bootleg representations I still find to this day when I visit. I will clarify that my relationship with Disney is complicated. I grew up going to Disney World quite a bit, sometimes multiple times a year because, one, there's nothing to do in Orlando, Florida. And two, my parents, as many in the immigrant community in Orlando, were employed by Disney. And so yeah, my parents were employed by Disney for a long time, and while I stand here giving this lecture to you all, there's nothing that could separate the reality that simultaneously my mother is probably making the bed or cleaning the bathroom of a tourist family at one of its famous hotels. And I would never share this to victimize my mother. This is an honorable job that she takes a lot of pride in. I mean, really, like, no one can make a bed better than my mom. But it is also true that when I was growing up, the American dream came at the cost of working for a glove-wearing mouse instead of spending sitcom, Full House, quality time together. The truth is that Disney World, and truthfully this country, would not exist without immigrant labor. On the other side of town, there's also another simulation brewing simultaneously, especially when I moved in 2003, it was really brewing, in the Colombian microcosm that I grew up in. This store on Orange Blossom Trail, Colombian products, allowed for the recreation of the delicacy of the dishes we miss the most, with some alterations, of course, but this life has made us resourceful. Simulation comes in all shapes and sizes. We see here the recreation of an exterior facade in the interior of the Colombian restaurant El Trópico. And on the right is a balconcito. And this object, though small in scale, is a teleportation device across time and geographical distance. The idea of the facade, the flat front-facing fantasy, the things that hide invisible labor, exist in both of these thematic worlds, one built for fantasy and the other perhaps out of necessity. And this is Las Estrellas Brillan por Ti allá en lo alto from 2023.
There is no way you can deny your tristezas that are also sensual. Chiquitita, terminas tú. I am sure that you can cry on. Yo
As I've made evident, the small and powerful have always fascinated me, and as I began to include more miniature objects in my world, I began to trace a lineage. Inkaijus are very special objects in Quechua communities and have been for centuries. Though research on these objects directly from Quechua people is hard to find online, anthropologist Catherine J. Allen has written on the subject multiple times during her trips along the Andes Mountains in Peru and Bolivia since the 70s. Inkaijus are fractals of the larger mountainscape that take the form of what we long for, in this case, a llama. The finder of this Inkaiju would then go through a period of courting, bringing offerings to it until it magically increased in size during a moment of animation. Though this is different than the animations I've showed you, it's actually just an activation of the animus, the spirit that lives inside of the Inkaiju. The finder would then take it home and ensure that it was cared for, symbolizing a longing that, perhaps in this case, their llama could survive the winter. Inkaijus are honored and respected. They are passed down from generation to generation. This understanding of the fractal relationship and scale made me reflect as I was walking down a road in Ráquira, the place where Gijo was born, and one of the largest ceramic communities in Colombia. They've actually, 80% of the population in Ráquira has lived off ceramics since before the Spanish came to colonize. So as I was walking, I began thinking about the fired ceramic pieces that were broken and remixed with the dirt that paves the roads, how they draw on the landscape, how those pieces have been transformed, reshaped under fire, under pressure, and that they're broken tiny and woven back into their origin, into the land. And that maybe that's what it feels like to go back home, and that maybe that's what it means to belong. Wow, I didn't realize the crazy watermark on this. But in present-day Bolivia, due to a transition from the pastoral into the urban, we see the effect of globalization impacting these miniature practices. During the Alacitas festival in Bolivia, large crowds gather in miles of tents that sell everything you can imagine in miniature form. You can customize an alacita, a figure carrying all that your heart desires. And now perhaps it's dollar bills, and a diploma, and a new car, and a new TV. They are presented in your home as a reminder of what you desire, the things that you're working for, of the sacrifice, of the longing for a better life now represented in material objects. In Colombia, we have a similar phenomenon, the chiva and the balconcitos, which I've shown you before. Two of our most famous miniature objects, often mass-produced and in their scale, represent the portability of worlds, of cultural identity, of a place far away in both time and geographical distance. The chiva here, the functional object, is you might be familiar with either the chiva or buses similar to these in other countries, and the reason why is that the U.S. exported like the wheels and engines for these buses to lots of places around the world, but it was up to that country to then design the body for it. And in Colombia, the traditional ones are made out of wood. They have open windows that look out into the landscape, and benches. There's no individual seats, so you're just sharing with anyone next to you. And on the top, these are often referred to as ladder buses because there's a ladder in the back that would allow you to stack things on the top. So these went from rural town to rural town. But now in their miniature form, the ones that you see on the left are often taken as souvenirs, meaning that their intended distance, despite their decrease in scale, has exceeded by thousands and thousands of miles. So as someone who grew up in the US, I always wondered what exactly does it mean to be Colombian, especially being so far away, but however, something that in the microcosm that I grew up in, and in many of them around the country, especially places like Central Florida, which has the third largest population of Colombians, or somewhere like Elizabeth, New Jersey, that has the highest concentration of Colombians in the US. What exactly that means, and how we carry that sense of national and cultural identity so proudly. And the common formula for both balconcitos and chivas are often coffee, flowers, ceramic and woven replicas, usually a rural wardrobe, and evidence of Spanish architecture repainted in brighter colors. But often I wonder how these objects became so popular and are often, in Colombian households, like of people that live abroad, when oftentimes that wasn't necessarily the reality. Chivas are usually found in rural places. Most of the time, the people that are able to emigrate out of Colombia for necessity usually have some level of privilege, and usually live in bigger cities where chivas are not really found, where the colonial architecture is now modern buildings. So how could we have narrowed down something as complex and layered as cultural identity to what we can produce, to the exploited labor of our land, to extraction? This is a clip from The Sound of Her Wings from 2019.
Soy emigrante latino, que llora en la lejanía, añoro el pueblo querido, que le dio luz a mi vida. Tierra, pedacito de cielo que diste un día a mis ojos luz. Sueño volver a cantarte una serenata con tibia voz. Busco todos los caminos que me conduzcan de nuevo a ti. Lloro cuando el barco agita sus alas blancas para partir. Adiós, adiós, pedazo de mi juventud. Recuerdo de aquella niñez, quizá no vuelva más a ti, pero olvidarte nunca. Soy emigrante latino.
Quiero verte sonreír para compartir tu alegría.
So back to chivas. This is a chiva made by master miniature ceramicist Cecilia Vargas Munoz, the often uncredited creator of the ceramic chiva, whose idea was taken and mass-produced into the object we know today. Notice the detail and specificity of her work. Don't notice that half of her name is not fully there, I'm sorry. My fascination and appreciation of her practice led me to reach out to her, and in 2023, I did a ceramic apprenticeship to learn more about her practice and history. We continue to speak over time, and when I was invited to do an exhibition at the Luminary, it only made sense after being so inspired by her work to ask her if she would do me the honor of sharing this exhibition space with me. So during the show, these were two of the works that were shown kind of facing each other. This one is Pesebre or Nacimiento. Though Cecilia has presented here an indigenous village instead, and as you see, kind of deep under the hut back there, that the mother is breastfeeding the baby Jesus, which is not something that we see commonly in pesebres. And then next to it is my piece, With Drawn Wings I Fly Away, that I made shortly after my trip or my apprenticeship with her, so deeply inspired by her work. And now that we've made our journey through the small and into the big, into the small once again, unknowingly we have created a woven spiral, a web that connects us all, reminding us too that those small creatures like spiders, their extension of their bodies is sublime in scale. Did you know that spiders can also fly? As weavers create nets of gossamer, and through a phenomenon called ballooning, they can disperse and migrate to new areas, a behavior that can be initiated by both wind and atmospheric electric fields. So sometimes young spiders balloon to escape overcrowding, while adults may use it to find new resources or escape unfavorable conditions. So this next piece is called Mano a Mano, and it's from 2024. So join me now with our 8 little legs to find the mountains. They're not the same ones from before, but I know that in mountains blue and green I'll always dream of home. And this is it now. I find home deep inside, a deep landscape to explore. And in open fields my memories live all around me like monuments. They have crumbled through an incessant process of translation. Nonetheless, I, the researcher, excavate and polish dust to better understand. Un tema en tecnicolor para hacer algo útil del amor. The softness of this world breaks the fall of reality, and the flowers always bloom after heartbreak. The petals are never ending. With drawn wings, I fly away, looking through the web layers, all existing simultaneously.
Fractals of our family, that means that my name means that someone remembers me, even though I'm so far away. The fascination with the hand, I have been through you. Las almas que nos quieren, a heart open to you, like a bunny house for Paula's baptism. Like the little windows that house my grandfather's dogs. Now crumbling and covered in now dust. Crumbling and covered in dust. No one took care of my childhood. No one took care of my childhood. Just a sentence written. Just a sentence written. Banality of unassuming. Banality of a woman's collection. Since decomposing somewhere distant. And living las almas que nos quieren. And living las almas que nos quieren. I can still time. I can still feel time. I can still. I wonder who your first love was. I wonder who your first love was. For whom was the passion that ran through your veins? Scribbled in gritted pages. I sit with your handwriting. I sit with your handwriting and find ways to tether any likeness that connects me. Any likeness that connects me and tells me that I belong. Las almas que nos quieren están las almas que nos quieren están todas que las quieren están todas. The heart's veins are made the fractals of our family. The fractals of our family that include my name means that someone remembers me even though I'm so far away. Las almas que nos quieren, están todas muy bien, están todas. Just a sentence written, and it is unassuming daily increase in my ears as the most sincere truth. And living proof that if I reach out, I can collapse time. I can stop time. I can stop. Fascination with the handheld they have with the a heart opens up to reveal. A heart opens up to reveal. Like a bunny house for Paula's baptism. Like the little windows that house my grandfather's house. Now crumbling and covered in dust. No one took care of my childhood. No one took care of my childhood. Banality of a woman's collection. Since decomposing. Las almas que nos quieren están todas. I wonder who your first love was. For whom was the passion that ran through your veins? Scribbled in gritted pages. With your handwriting and find ways to tell any likeness that connects me, any likeness that connects me, any likeness that connects me, any likeness that Las almas que nos quieren están todas.
I no longer feel fragmented, but I also don't feel like a singular version of myself. Everything becomes small from up here, a miniature world that will become large once again. All the non-linear pathways, the labyrinthine corridors of my memory, They connect everyone I've ever been and will be to the ancestral, the familial, the cultural, the self-molded by and beyond consumerist agendas, the handmade, the digital, everything I love and everything that pains me.
Las almas que nos quieren están todas bien.
I can see now that they are not mutually exclusive and that they are part of a much larger web. And through little paper windows, I can see you and you can see me finally. And that's it. Yeah.
Okay, we have time for a few questions if anybody has any. Anyone? So beautiful. Sorry, just for the online.
Thank you. That was a really lovely look into your practice. Could you, I really wanted to see your exhibition at the Luminary in person, but because we can't, could you sort of describe just physically when you walk into the space, do you encounter this structure right away? Like, do you go inside of it and then just trying to get like a sense of like the layout of the room so I can imagine what it looks like? Is that...
Yeah, totally. So and thank you for your comment. The Luminary is quite a large space. When I was invited to do the show and I went to visit, I got really intimidated by the scale of it. But thankfully they worked with me and were really happy to show a lot of my work. So when you first walked in, there was a piece on the floor that I didn't include in the slides, but it's these butterfly wings, and the wings are these bodies in a landscape kind of melding into each other, and a lot of the objects that I made with Cecilia were displayed on those wings. And then I feel like I'm going through a memory palace actually in my head, going through the exhibition. And then the next piece was actually this one. So right when you, after you pass that piece, there's this one. And then there's the heart that opens up into the landscape, and it was facing Cecilia's work. So Cecilia was quite nervous to travel with her work because she's had issues before with TSA. So we actually contacted a collector that she's really good friends with, who lives in Washington, and he's a collector of miniatures. He owns over 200,000 miniatures from all over the world. So we were able to show actually some of the first chivas Cecilia ever made from the 1970s. And those chivas were displayed in these vitrines right in front of the piece that I made. So I don't like to call this piece a chiva, though I was inspired by Cecilia's work. Having the context that her work, like the idea of the ceramic chiva was taken from her and then mass produced. I didn't want like another iteration, like a copy of her work. And I was wanted to create a flying machine, the machine that we rode on tonight, to symbolize it in a way, but make it my own somehow. So it has two faces, as you can see. It has no front or back. I wanted the possibility of going forward and backwards in space to exist simultaneously. And then there was a few TVs, like really big, like the TVs, like the big box TVs. They're CRTs, but they're like the gallery ones. Like when they said that they had them, like I felt like I had leveled up somehow, like by being able to show my videos on those TVs. And I was really excited about that. So I showed some of the videos that I shared with you tonight. And then there was a really dark room, or like we made it really dark, kind of on the, like facing this side of this piece, where I made an installation that was like responding to the columns of the space, a big spider. And it's a spider that I shared in another slide, though I kind of rebuilt her to fit into that space, and we projected it on top of that. So it was really responding to like the shadows made by the spider body, the relationship that then there was a shift of scale. And in this exhibition, like through making this work, probably, yeah, I mean, it's the biggest thing I've ever made. I learned so much along that process, and so much of that is at the show at National. Like the use of fabric, getting more, I guess, confident with my construction using fabric, but especially the interaction between light from the projection and the screen, like the windshields that are in this piece, that really allowed you, once you stepped in, to feel as if you were levitating up into the sky and traveling through the last piece that I just shared with you, Mano Mano. And then we had this big wall of some of my works on paper, which are also at National. And then lots of documentation, photographs of Cecilia in her studio, chivas that she made as well. And Cecilia did bring a small chiva with her to present during the closing of the exhibition. And it was such an honor to be able to bring her, and her work has never really been shown in the US. So it was really meaningful to me, because I feel like the amount of like cultural production, like the impact that she has made, she's so under recognized. So it was really wonderful to share this space with her, and to build a friendship with her too through this process.
I have a question. It's about memory and process. When you find yourself recreating memory, does like your creations ever replace like the original like memory? Like, do you remember it as like what you have made?
Yeah. No, it totally has. And I love, Noah, that you're here and that you asked the question, because it reminds me of the last time that I did an artist talk and you asked the question. And it reminded me of when I did my thesis in 2018 and you asked the question. So it remains constant now in my memory that if I have the chance or the opportunity to do a talk in Portland, that hopefully you'll be there and always to ask a question. But the truth is that, yeah, and I think that's why I've always been interested in the process of memory recollection, because there's so much imagination that happens in the process of remembering, that like how could those memories not be influenced by what's going on today, which is why I never refer to my work as nostalgic, because I don't have a desire to live in the past. I'm simply going back into that moment with the context of who I am today. And I think because I've been doing this for the past 10 years of focusing my work around memory and memory recollection and memory palace and the memory landscape and all of these things, they're just constantly evolving. And there are times where, for example, I mean, I don't think it replaces the memory, but it gives a different context that I feel like is quite empowering, especially for things that were quite painful to remember. So I think it's been an empowering process in my practice to be able to kind of recontextualize or piece different things together, but kind of having the understanding that they're kind of all existing simultaneously, even though some things are in the past and they lose resolution with that distance. So that text that I was reading about distance, about the theory of scale, is something I'm really interested in. I do quite often in my videos that sense, like what I was reading earlier, that everything becomes small from up here, a miniature world that will become large once again, is directly connected to that there's distance, and I start to lose the memory, and it starts to get further and further away from me and lose resolution and get really blurry, pixelated, off in space. But that through what I've done in my practice, somehow that world becomes large once again, changed, of course, reconstructed every time, but I'm able to visit it always in my work.
Could you talk about what drove you to animation? I saw like a lot of 3D stuff, and then you could also share what's like your favorite TV show growing up.
You know, I love that question. I feel like I love animation, and when I was a student here, I majored in painting. I don't know, I was telling Megan, because I taught an animation workshop yesterday, that I never stepped foot in the animation area till after I graduated. Like, I didn't even know all of the things we had. I always used the Foundation Animation Studio to make a lot of these. But it happened in Time Arts. I don't know how many of you guys are students here, but I went to community college and I transferred here, but I still had to take Time Arts, thankfully. And they just showed us how to use Dragon Frame, like very basic kind of Dragon Frame tools for our animation project. And it just changed my life. I think they also... Rick, who still teaches here, was my professor, and he showed us William Kentridge. And at the time, I was making these I didn't show any of them, but I was making these wannabe photorealist charcoal drawings. Like it's just so different from my work now. But just the thought that those drawings could transform and have so much movement, it just it changed everything. And because I didn't have this knowledge of animation, I was just allowed to run wild and free. There were no rules. There was no it needs to be this frames per second. I had no idea. I had no idea what that meant. I was just going into that studio with a bunch of supplies and then just going for it. I never really storyboarded. I didn't have formal training in it, so I just did whatever. And when I was a student too, there were 2 screenings, I believe my junior and my senior year. Rose Bond collaborated with this woman named Lina Aguirre, who is Colombian and she lives in the US, and she's part of a studio called Moebius Animación, which is based in Bogota. And they did those screenings. It was called it was called Experimental Animation by Women in Latin America, and it completely changed my life. It just blew my mind. I had no idea animation could look like that. Obviously, I grew up with Disney, I grew up with cartoons, I grew up with anime, but I just had no idea that animation could look like that. We're so used to the standards that Disney has set with things like Pixar or DreamWorks, and going into the hyper real, or wanting the water to be as water as it could be, the simulation kind of obsession with animation today. And it was so different. It was completely raw and tactile and full of material, and hands were the hand was so visible, and it was talking about things that really resonated and mattered to me. I got so emotional thinking about it, but I've actually, when I got the CCAM fellowship at Yale, I was able to collaborate with Moebius and bring some of the artists to screen there. And recently I also got a grant to create a pop-up experimental animation festival in Cleveland. So that's the next project. And I just think there's just so much possibility. As far as the 3D, that happened because I was so into the memory palaces. I was making them in Photoshop, the kind of basic skills I had in Photoshop of creating these rooms. And at the Creative Technology Lab, is that what it's called now? Yes. Upstairs. My senior year, I took a class there that was just workshops, and there was a person there, I'm blanking on his name, but he was teaching a Unity 3D workshop, and I was like, can I make this room that I'm making in Photoshop, can I make that 3-dimensional? And he kind of showed me how, but it was really with the help of Megan upstairs and Matthew Henderson at Open Signal that I learned how to use Unity. And though I don't know a lot about scripting and I don't do any 3D modeling digitally. I make everything by hand. All of the 3D animations that I showed you today, everything is made by hand. Everything is watercolor paintings, polymer clay, paper mache, and then I 3D scan and bring everything in that way. Which has been like kind of constant in my practice and something that I love very much. I've made a game, I've made VR, so the possibility of that medium has been really empowering for me. And into the infinitely scalable, that was also a big part of it. In 2020, when I was working out of my room, I could make tiny things with polymer clay, 3D scan them, and then really make them huge, you know, in Unity. So it kind of really changed everything for me, and it got me interested in making things at a small scale. And then my favorite TV show, period, or like animated show. Oh, growing up. I mean, Pokemon, Cardcaptor Sakura, those two were like huge for me. The Simpsons, like the things that when I was very young and still in Colombia, we have like two main TV channels that had children's programming in the afternoon when kids got out of school, and that was what they showed: Pokemon, Cardcaptor Sakura, and The Simpsons. I also love Fairly Odd Parents growing up. Watched it every morning when I was getting ready for school. I'm sure there's something like more of a deep cut in there that I could like make myself sound really cool, but I think those were the ones. And I still watch Pokemon all the time.
Okay, thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you all so much for making the time to come hear me talk. You may get off the flying machine now. Watch your hands and feet as you exit the vehicle.